Who that told him that though?
Because his statement is Wack.
I just want to say this to y'all. When they raided my houses and my property, they was asking about Wack. Wack, loose cannon, 600, and this internet stuff.
Wack 100 been running his mouth for years, screaming snitch at anyone who crossed his path like it was his full-time job. He built a whole persona around calling people out, always pointing fingers, always loud. But now, the game just flipped. A leaked wiretap just hit the internet, and it's got the streets talking crazy. And guess who allegedly dropped it? None other than 21 Savage. This ain't some random clip, this one's got weight. People are now reaching way back to 2005, digging up that old federal gun case Wack was tied to, and they're asking real questions. What if Wack been playing both sides this whole time? Just imagine it. The same guy who constantly screams rat, who made a brand out of snitch shaming, suddenly has a badge peeking out his wallet. They say it only flashed for a second, but in that 1 second, his whole reputation might have just collapsed like a house of cards.
Who that told him that though?
Because his statement is Wack.
But here's the real twist, the dropper. The streets are saying this didn't just leak randomly. They're saying 21 Savage himself dropped it on purpose. Not shared, not passed around, leaked. On purpose. Like he'd been sitting on it, waiting, watching, ready to pop off when the time was right. And can you even blame him? Wack been throwing dirt on 21's name for years now, calling him a snitch, claiming he cut a deal with ICE to keep his status in the US, even trying to drag him into that whole YSL RICO mess.
Damn,
Because
been 3
obviously
years.
you ain't going to court because you was going to court. Every time you go to court, they gonna let us know you going to court. So
I can't go to court for immigration if I got an open gun
what
case.
about
fool.
the gun case, bull?
I can't go to court for immigration if I got
They
an
will
open
give
gun
you
case.
your
now.
time.
21 didn't say much back then. He kept cool, let it slide, said a few things, but never made it a war. But let's be real. If 21 Savage really dropped that wiretap, that wasn't just some petty move. That was straight up chess. This wasn't about clapping back for clout. This was cold, calculated silence. After years of Wack 100 sneak dissing him on Clubhouse, throwing jabs like it was a sport, 21 didn't even have to say a word. He let the footage talk. And now, the whole internet's piecing it together, looking back like, wait, has Wack been deflecting this whole time? Cause when you connect the dots, it starts looking real shady. Wack been pointing fingers at everybody, calling people snitches, saying they working with the feds. But now it's feeling like he been yelling loud just so nobody stops and looks his way. And here's where it gets even messier. This ain't even the first time someone's hinted Wack might be tied to the feds. Just a couple months ago, reports came out that Big U got hit with RICO charges. But before Big U even turned himself in, he called Wack 100 out on video. Flat out said the man was working with the FBI.
Hey, some of what you may have done may have helped with the timing, right? I think you.
What's that?
I think you tip it off to you. I think that definitely.
Now this is where things start feeling off for real. Before the RICO story even hit the blogs, before any paperwork, before any arrests, guess who already knew? Wack. Dude hit up Big U's wife with some cryptic 911 type message, warning her that he needs to leave. Like, how'd he know what was coming before it even went down? And that ain't no heads up? That sounds like a setup. Like Wack already knew the raid was locked in and made sure to drop a little hint just to cover his tracks.
All right, so yeah, after you got that message, after you got the message, you hit up Big U's wife. You said, sis, 911. 1 sec, let me get solo. And you gave him a heads up.
What I tell him?
You said, 1 sec, let me get solo. He needs to leave. Bad. In caps, all caps, he needs to leave.
I said so bad, right?
And get this, after Big U got locked up, Wack went full internet mode, talking reckless again. He flipped the whole script, tried to make it seem like Big U was the one moving dirty. Claimed he had a BlackBerry and was in direct contact with the feds.
I just want to say this to y'all. When they raided my houses and my property, they was asking about Wack. Wack, loose cannon, 600, and this internet stuff.
But instead of clearing things up, Wack's behavior just raised even more eyebrows. Like, how come he always the first to know what's poppin', like clockwork? How's he always smack in the middle of chaos, but never seems to get touched by it? That call to Big U's wife didn't look like no kind-hearted warning. It looked like a man trying to play both sides of the game, giving a heads up to the same dude he might have helped set up, staying close to the flames but never getting burned. That's when people really started looking at Wack sideways. Like maybe he ain't the street watchdog he acts like. Maybe he's something else entirely.
Going through it, I said, yeah, I don't know nothing about this. He said, man, y'all too tight. I see Big U signature. I see other signatures. I'm reading it. And what shook me was the police issued the device to communicate with law enforcement in form of a BlackBerry.
And believe it or not, all this drama blowing up now, it goes way back to an incident from 2005 that folks been whispering about for years. Word is, Wack 100 and his brother got pulled over in Texas. Nothing major at first, just a simple speeding stop. Cops do the usual routine, ask where they're headed. Wack says they're going to a funeral in Oklahoma, but then the officers ask if they can search the car. Wack says no, so they bring out the K9 unit, and that's when things take a turn. The dog sniffs out 3 loaded guns, a shotgun, a rifle, and a pistol. And here's where it gets real serious. Wack and his brother were already convicted felons. That's automatic federal time. No questions asked. That's not the type of charge you walk away from. That's the kind that buries your career before it even begins. But somehow, Wack got out on bail and just slid right back to LA like nothing ever happened. No headlines, no trial updates, just silence for 2 whole years. And then, out of nowhere, case dismissed, and not cause of weak evidence or some legal loophole. The court straight up said it was dropped in the interest of justice. Now hold up. Anybody who knows how the system really works, especially when it comes to felons caught with loaded firearms, knows that phrase don't come up by accident. That's not something the court throws around for just anyone. Something ain't adding up. And people are finally starting to connect the pieces. That kind of phrase, in the interest of justice, don't just pop up in court paperwork like it's nothing. That ain't no mercy move. That usually means somebody gave something up. Courts don't just toss federal gun charges on convicted felons out of kindness, but Wack? He tried to twist it years later, saying the case got tossed because the search was illegal. Sounded slick, but it was all cap. The official court records were public. And nowhere in there did it mention anything about an unlawful search. Just a clean dismissal. No explanation, no loophole. Just poof, gone. And it's the timing that really gets under people's skin, because just a couple years later, the feds started closing in on Suge Knight, Wack's old boss from back in the death row days. According to The Hollywood Reporter, Suge was caught up in a major gang injunction. His whole circle got hit hard. Wiretaps, house raids, names dropped in paperwork. It was chaos. But somehow through all that heat, Wack 100's name was never mentioned. Not once. Not even in passing.
I told you I'm doing my movie. I talked to you and I told you I want you involved in it. But you know, I'm not fucking with that trucker dude. That dude lied very fast.
Then the street started buzzing again. This time about the Main Street Crips and that wild kidnapping case connected to Shaquille O'Neal's name. The case was insane. Transcripts surfaced, and in those recordings, someone named Back was calling around, leaving voicemails, stirring things up behind the scenes. And now, folks are saying that Back was really Wack, just another alias in a long trail of dirty secrets. Now fast forward to today, and Wack is all over the internet playing judge and jury, calling out Gunna, BG Brick Baby, 21 Savage, even going after Jay Diggs, acting like he's the street's moral compass, like he's holding down real codes, but the facts ain't lining up. Cause let's keep it 100. Nobody just walks away from a federal gun case with 3 loaded firearms in the trunk while already being a felon, unless they're either insanely lucky or they handed something over to save themselves. And luck like that ain't showing up twice. So when that new video surfaced and a police ID flashed, even for a split second, it hit different. Almost 20 years later, and that's what people remember. Not just the badge, not just the beef, but that same old question that's been haunting the streets since his 2005 case disappeared. What did Wack trade to walk away so clean? Because here's the truth. Wack 100 built his entire brand around one word, snitch. That's his go-to insult. Anytime a rapper gets locked up or takes a deal, he's the first one on Clubhouse yelling they cooperated. No proof, just pressure. He did it to Gunna. Claimed he had a 2-hour interrogation tape and even threatened to leak it unless Gunna confessed. But guess what? The tape never dropped. All talk, no action. He came after BG too, a man who already served over a decade behind bars. Said BG snitched. But again, no paperwork, no receipts. Even BG's old cellmate came forward and said BG stood tall, never folded, never said a word. But did that stop Wack? Nope. He just kept running his mouth like facts don't matter. That's his whole game. Loud accusations, zero proof. And yeah, on the surface it works. For people who ain't paying close attention, he looks like he's calling out fake ones and holding down the code. But the real ones, they're starting to peep the pattern. Because every single time Heat gets close to Wack, he flips the script. Loud distractions, wild stories, accusing someone else of being a rat just long enough to make folks forget what's happening around him. And let's not forget, Wack records everybody. Conversations, calls, even private talks. Folks say he got a phone full of secrets, like he's building his own insurance policy in case things go sideways. That's not how real ones operate, at all. You don't need to record every conversation unless you've got plans to either use it as leverage or hand it off to somebody who will. And now, people are finally starting to catch on. Some of the same rappers Wack brought into his Clubhouse chats, just for conversation, ended up catching real cases later. Take Loose Cannon, for example. He jumped on there, got a little too comfortable, started talking crazy, and boom, got jammed up not long after. So now folks are asking the real questions. Was Wack 100 setting people up? Was he baiting them to talk reckless on purpose, knowing the clips would go viral? And that prosecutors might just be listening too? Because the way things line up, it's starting to look coordinated. From how he sparks arguments online, to how certain leaks just happen to drop at the perfect time to boost his narrative, it's way too clean to be coincidence. And look, maybe not everything is straight up evidence. Maybe not every move is part of some master plan, but the pattern, it's loud. And once you start seeing it, it's hard to unsee. You gotta pause and think about the timeline. This didn't start with the leaked badge video. That was just the latest spark. It goes all the way back to that 2005 gun case that vanished like smoke. Then he somehow knew about Big U's RICO before it hit the news. Then there's the wiretap drops, the badge flashing in the clip, the constant habit of recording everyone. It's not just messy anymore, it's strategic. And here's what's wild. For all the people he's accused of snitching, where's the paperwork? Where are the statements? The plea deals? The transcripts? In most cases, they don't exist. But the only name that keeps popping up in situations where cases disappear, people get set up, or information gets out is his. And now it's like the mask is starting to slip. Wack been building this image for years. The loud, no-nonsense street vet who calls it how he sees it. But more and more, people are starting to realize maybe it was all just smoke and mirrors. Because if you really listen close, his story never adds up the same way twice. He moves like someone with protection, not street protection, real protection. Like someone who knows he won't face the same consequences as everybody else. How else does a man walk away from federal gun charges, dodge any heat in a RICO sweep, and still have the nerve to accuse everyone else of being dirty? And somehow, he's always around right before something happens. Then disappears when the smoke clears. He's been playing a long game for a while. It worked. He had people fooled, made noise online, stirred up drama, acted like he was just keeping it real. But now, the layers are peeling back, and what's underneath looks real suspicious. From that court case that vanished without a trace, to leaking phone calls, to moving like a middleman with both hands in the pot, it's got folks wondering, has Wack 100 really been running his own operation this whole time? Because the streets ain't dumb. The real ones are connecting dots. They see how he jumps on every trending case, every viral arrest, every plea deal, and always spins the narrative to make himself look like the truth teller. But behind that mic, he's moving way too slick for someone who claims to be just a businessman. Exposed. Or do the feds already know everything because he's been the one feeding them? That's what makes this whole situation hit different. This ain't just about proving whether Wack 100 is tied to the feds. It's about asking the real questions, like, what does it mean if he actually is? What does that say about the stories we've believed all these years? About the people we've supported, reposted, given platforms to? Because people been laughing it off, making memes, cracking jokes on timelines, but none of this is funny anymore. Not when real lives are getting caught up in cases, deals, and setups that might have been orchestrated from the jump. People getting jammed up, families torn apart, and careers destroyed, while the one man pointing fingers at everybody else stays untouched. Wack been calling folks snitches for years, but now the light's turning back on him. And suddenly, the questions are louder than ever. People are looking around whispering, what if the loudest one in the room was wired up from day one? If that's true, if he's been playing both sides this entire time, then this whole street game, the whole code, all of it might have been compromised for years. And the most chilling part, he's not laying low. He's still front and center, still online, still talking reckless, still stirring the pot. And whatever he says next could be the final piece that blows this whole thing wide open. If you've been watching this unfold and feel like something ain't right, make sure to drop a like, hit that subscribe button, and leave a comment down below. What do you think? Is this all smoke, or is the fire finally showing? Either way, this story ain't done, not even close. Stay locked in, and I'll catch you on the next one.